For generations, veterans have answered the call, some paying the ultimate sacrifice to maintain what many of us take for granted. This is Legacy Generations, and these are their stories.
Hi everybody, this is Josh with Legacy Generations. I'm excited. I've got David, who's an Army veteran. David and I have known each other for a few years, but we've never had a chance to sit down and actually discuss his experiences. And today I'm fortunate to have the opportunity to do that. So thank you for this time.
Happy to be here.
Hey David, do me a favor and tell everybody, what you do in the Army and how long you've been in the Army.
I'm currently working in a G1 as a session NCOIC. I've been serving now for almost 16 years, part active regular Army and mostly National Guard now. I also work as an interpreter, Polish interpreter when they need me. Illinois with Chicago having the biggest Polish population outside of Poland itself. It just fell naturally hand in hand for the Illinois National Guard and the country of Poland to work side by side together. And this started just after the fall of communism in Poland in '89. Illinois and Poland started working together and started the state partnership program to work side by side moving forward.
You said you were on active duty. What did you do active duty and who were you with?
I went into active duty regular Army in November of '03. I was a 13th Fox forward observer. First duty station, it was overseas in Korea on DMZ at Camp Greaves. I was with the Baker Company, 1st and 506, Curry Hees, under 2ID. From there, we deployed to Iraq, right between Ramadi and Fallujah. Served under 1st MD and 2nd MD. Shortly after coming back from that deployment, I linked up with the 1st 75th Ranger Regiment, also as a forward observer, and finished out my time with them and got out of active duty and then eventually going National Guard.
So tell me about that first deployment. What was your mission and what all did you guys really get into?
Well, we got stop lost in Korea because Korea, to my understanding, was still considered a deployment. So we were the first unit that was already deployed to be forward deployed to another combat area for the first time since like World War II or something. I can't remember the exact history behind that, but we did our pre-mob training, and from there we went to Iraq. Our main mission was to keep MSR Michigan, a main supply route, clear between Ramadi and Fallujah from terrorist activities, just to keep the supply lines open and clear any activities, enemy activity in the area. Right. So that was my main mission.
And remind me what years that was?
This was 04, 05.
So very early on in that deployment cycle to Iraq.
It was unexpected because none of the guys expected to be deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan at that point, just because we were already in Korea. So it kind of came to a surprise to us all. But when we got there, we were who a lot of people now know as General Mattis. We're under his direct command.
Oh wow!
So that huge assault in Ramadi. This is the second one when he was taking his Marines through there. Curry Hees were in charge on one side to clear any enemy activities as the Marines were coming through. That was one of the biggest missions I've ever been on. That was really new and exciting for me early on in my career. The rest of the time with my Curry brothers, we were mainly working the MSR and making sure it was clear, along with all the towns in between there.
Right. So your Currahee brothers, how many? Are there any of those that you still stay in touch with, or?
A lot of them. A couple of them came to my wedding. We have our own kind of Facebook page where we just keep in touch with each other, just about weekly basis. There's always somebody I'm always reaching out or talking to, that if it wasn't for social media, I probably wouldn't have been able to talk to for years. But those guys, out of all the deployments I've been on, those guys I have the closest connection, the most camaraderie, just blood brothers through and through to the day I die. I mean, if they hadn't even come to my door today, I'd open my door wide open, invite them in for however long they need. So yeah.
So the brotherhood, the camaraderie that you just described, what do you think forged that the most?
Just everything we've went through while over there. We've blood, sweat, and tears through everything we've been through. We've lost a couple great guys, great leadership. When it comes to going into a hostile area, I mean, everybody gets affected differently. Nobody gets nobody who walks in walks out thinking the same, feeling the same, or acting the same. It's just everybody just takes everything in a little differently. I mean, we had to deal with IEDs. We had to deal with incoming rounds, whether that be early morning or late evening. That was a weekly occurrence. I just remember it got to a point where we first came across all that stuff. It kind of, I mean, like anybody knew, it kind of freaked us out. But you just get so complacent, and you hear it. You almost know exactly where it's going to hit as soon as you hear them coming. So you hear it coming overhead, and you're like, oh, that's not even coming anywhere near us. So you just keep walking. Nobody even takes cover or anything. So it affects everybody a little bit differently, and you walk out with experience and a brotherhood through all that. That's something that you will never would have gotten through anything else, in my opinion.
What was life like for you prior to joining the Army?
I was going through DeVry College. I had about 2 years completed. I didn't have the drive to complete school. I was more interested in traveling, doing something than anything else. And I got to a crossroads. I remember I was working at Best Buy, and Iraq kicked off. Afghanistan was already going on. So it was something in the back of my mind I always wanted to do. It was almost like a family tradition. My dad served in the Polish military. All my grandparents served in some capacity. We just got a long line of people in my family that have served. And as a child, it was just something I really always looked up to as far as my dad. I was seeing the pictures of him and serving as a Polish soldier. Just something that always stuck with me. And working at Best Buy and going to school, it just wasn't doing it for me. And I wanted to do something with the military. I wasn't sure what. It just, when I saw Iraq kick off, that was just kind of like, all right, I'm doing this. I don't want to sit back fixing computers while something like this is going on. So that was kind of like my call. It's like, all right, now I want to do this. So I went to talk to a recruiter. I sat and thought about it for a couple days. I remember going to a local college, a community college, to see if that's for sure what I want to do. So it was just, like I said, it was a crossroads for me. And after dwelling on it for a while, I finally said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to join the military. So I joined the Army.
So your dad served with the Polish Army. Did he see you put on the U.S. Army uniform? And if he did, what was his reaction to you putting that on and serving this country?
He's proud. He loves the U.S. Both my parents do. They came here to get away from communist oppression in Poland. They even partook in that with the Solidarity movement in Poland. In fact, the whole reason we came to the U.S. was because my mother was blacklisted by the communist government of Poland, and she was supposed to go to prison. My dad said no, because she was pregnant with me. He's like, my son's not going to be born in a prison in Poland. So they ran away to Austria, and I was born there. Then we filed for refugee status, and the U.S. said okay. So that is something that my parents were forever grateful for the U.S. to provide for us. So when I told my parents I'm going to go serve, they were very proud. They were extremely supportive. My mom actually wanted me to join for a while. My dad, he was supportive of the decision as soon as I told him. He's like, I kind of had a feeling you would at some point, just because growing up, me always questioning him about his Polish military career and going through all the whether it be military movies or playing soldier in the yard. It's just something I guess he, as a father, always saw in me that I was going to do. So they've been very supportive, very proud, and especially now, working in the Guard, working as long as I have, working side by side with the Poles. My dad never thought in his wildest dreams that I'd be serving side by side with Poland, let alone this long in the military while going overseas and serving side by side with them. So yeah, absolutely.
And you've had a chance to share some of your experiences with your dad. What are those conversations at the dinner table like?
I mean, serving side by side with the Poles, like I said, going over to Poland as an interpreter or training with side by side with the Poles, they love hearing about that. Sitting side by side with my dad and going through these same places where he trained in the early 70s, it's just surprising how far the Polish military has come to get away from that Russian communist mentality and how close they've become as an ally to us and the thinking that they have that we do in the military. As far as beyond that, I don't really talk too much with my parents beyond history, kind of where my dad has served while in Poland, and just seeing if any of those places he's ever trained in or been at or stationed at. So that's probably as far as it has gone.
So with everything that's going on in the United States right now in the current time, and you've seen all the headlines, what kind of pride or what does that mean to you that your heritage, the country that your family comes from, is coming back and helping us with our issues that we've got going on?
To me, that I hope that shows the U.S. population how close and determined the Poles are to help us out. It goes back when 9/11 happened. When 9/11 happened, Poland was the first country to speak up and say, hey, U.S., we got your back. No matter what, we got your back. They were the first country to do so. They were there with us in Iraq. They were there with us in Afghanistan. I served side by side with them in Afghanistan. I'm going to be serving again with them here in November. So for them to come over here and help us out during this time in our country or any point, that's a lot of pride to me. That kind of shows the pride and determination of Poland and the spirit that they have to fight and defeat whatever enemy that we have side by side. Because they are there for us, and I hope that we will always be there for them. Because they've been a nation that is unconquerable. And that shows their fighting spirit. And for me, as a Pole, to see that time and time again, it just ignites my heritage, and is a lot of pride to see that happening even today.
Or let's move into your second deployment.
Okay.
And tell me, where you were, what you guys did, remind me again who you were with, and.
I don't know how much details I could go into, considering that I'm still serving. It was the second one was to Afghanistan. It was with the 1st 75th Ranger Regiment. As far as the details of it, I don't know if I could talk about it because everything was with the SOCOM. It's always hush hush. I can tell you, I served with them. I went to Afghanistan. We served out of a base there and just did our missions across the country.
How was that mission? Because I'm not going to try and pull details out of you, but
I got you.
How was that mission different from your first mission to Iraq? And how, kind of compare the two? Because again, that's another unique feature about you is the fact that you've served in both countries.
So the difference between the two, the Currahee Baker Company, I was embedded with them for a lot longer than I was with the Ranger Regiment. So when I got to my Ranger Regiment, it was, you got there, you got introduced to your unit, and a couple days later I was gone. It was stressful because you're in a high-speed unit. Your expectations and requirements of what is expected of you, there's no room for excuses or failure. It was something that I will never forget of going through, but going through it again, I don't think I'd be able to. It was just something I'm happy I did. I was happy I was able to experience it. But if I was to go back between the two, as far as who would I would serve with, I just feel like I've gone through a lot more with my brothers of Currahee in a 506 than I did with the Ranger Regiment. But I don't want to take anything away from what the Rangers do. It was just a completely different experience. Ranger regiments, it's kind of like, get in there, do your job, come home. The mission was only 3-4 months long because you need to be up to date on your training. So we got done with our training, we came back home, and we're already training up for the next deployment, which was 6 months to a year away, and it was just constant. With the Currahees, you were there, you're embedded, you went through the deployment for over a year. So you're there nonstop over 1 year with these guys doing the same mission to ensure the mission got completed. So you go through a lot more. You about 90% being bored, 10% being scared for your life because of what I mentioned earlier with IEDs, with incoming rounds, with sniper fire. I mean, you name it. We've probably experienced it. Almost every one of us that are out on mission almost on a daily basis. So the emotion you go through a lot longer with these guys in Iraq, obviously you're going to have a closer connection with these guys than that of the Rangers.
So you weren't married when you were with Currahee.
I was not.
And then you come back, meet your future bride, the love of your life, and then you get married, and then you end up with the Rangers. Mm-hmm. What was that like for her?
It was very stressful for her. Both Emily and I already made a decision. Let me backtrack. I already made a decision while in Iraq that I wanted to go serve and try out for some type of special operations environment. To what level, I didn't know at that time. Rangers were just something that always kind of drew me that way, just because my NCOIC for a platoon leader, Martin, I'll never forget him. He was a Ranger. He served with the Ranger Regiment I believe he told me for about 13, 14 years. One of the best leaders I've had the privilege to serve with. So I really looked up to him and looking for guidance, and so did a lot of the other guys. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen one of the younger soldiers going to him for guidance, whether or not necessarily military related, but also related with something in life. So I eventually made the decision towards the end of my time with the Kurihis that I wanted to go serve with the Rangers. So I put in the paperwork and I went to RIP to try out for the Rangers. And along the way, before going, that's when I met Emily. And I told her what my plan was. She was very supportive and wanted to come along, and so that's what she did. And while serving with the Rangers, it was really tough on her, especially because it was, I'll tell you when I'm going, but I can't really tell you when. I can't really tell you how. And when it comes, it comes. And that's, for a spouse, that's very stressful because you never know. So I can only imagine the roller coaster ride that she would be going through while I was serving with the Ranger Regiment.
And that definitely put some stress on you on a personal side, trying to manage a household plus manage your military career. And
I think as time went on and she started to understand more and more what the military life is truly like, she came to kind of understand the game, the military game for, hey, I'm a soldier, I'm going to have to deploy, hey, I'm going to have to go train, hey, I have to go to another country for a while. It come to a point where she's like, oh, all right, when are you going, when are you coming back? And I'm just kind of there to support. What can I do to make your life easier before I go? And especially now that we have 2 little kids, that's even a bigger factor for me personally to make sure my family is taken care of. But she's a tough cookie. I don't have to worry about her at all while training or doing anything with the military. And we just kind of know what to expect from one another because we've been doing it for so long.
I'll tell you from personal experience, there's a couple Marines that I served with when I was on active duty that they actually had Ranger tabs they'd sew underneath their collar, and that was a badge of honor.
Rangers are known as, and they are, the elite infantry fighting force of the world. In my opinion, seeing them, what they do, they take everything to another level of training. And what I mean by that is you are expected and required to know your job through and through, and then some. So take a regular 2-mile run that you have to do 90% 14:30. Well, you better do that in 13:30 Ranger. You better do it 110 times better than anybody else, because that is what is expected of you, and that has a trickle effect into whether you're on the range firing, whether you are learning an FM, whether you are doing your job. You will be the best prepared on that battlefield, bar none, no questions asked. And if you're not, they'll train the shit out of you to make sure you get to where their standard is, to make sure you're the best fighting soldier on the battlefield, and then that gives you the best chance to win that battle. Because you could have everything you need on you, your weapon, your Kevlar, your vest, but everybody knows that served that the best weapon in the military is your mind. And that is exactly what they train, is making sure you're the best fighting soldier on that battlefield.
So regardless of MOS or job, military job, that was their mentality.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So right off the top of your head, rattle to me the funniest or the one memory that you have while in uniform that just, bar none, every time you think of it, you just laugh about?
It's a bad good situation. I actually was talking about this the other day. I kind of mentioned it to Emily, and she doesn't get it. I mean, there's certain things where somebody who's never served, you hear what the hell they're saying. They'll be like, "Oh my God, what is wrong with you? That is not funny at all." So it goes back to the Currahees. I was up on a tower. We're on watch over the Euphrates River. It was just part of that mission. It was just our turn. So we're on a tower on Euphrates River. And me and Cantor, we were overwatching during, we had the evening shift, I'll remember that. We were overwatching the Euphrates River, and of course he had to go to the shitter. So when you do that, you only had the porter john just kind of set in the middle of the airfield, and it don't matter if it's 120 degrees outside, it's 150 degrees in that shitter. You got to go use it because there's nowhere else to really go. So he went, and I was overlooking, and all of a sudden you hear the rounds start coming, and no shit, out of all the times that they missed, they have to hit somewhere close to where we were at. I was looking at him, I'm yelling at him to get out, and he falls out, pants around his knees, just running with all his gear all over the place. It was just one of those things you had to be there to see it. I was worried for his life, but at the same time I couldn't help but die laughing because it was so late in the deployment, just seeing him try to scramble not to get hit by these rounds coming in. They came pretty damn close to his shitter too. And every now and again when I think about it, I just visualizing him running, I don't think he had even time, he didn't have time to wipe. So because he was in there for a while, also you see him running back to take cover. That right there is always something that just reminds me, sticks with me.